Have you ever wondered why certain parts of the world seem to be magnets for natural disasters, while others experience relatively calm conditions year-round? It's a question that's puzzled many, and the answer isn't as straightforward as you might think. From earthquakes in Japan and hurricanes in the Caribbean to wildfires in California, various regions are more prone to specific natural disasters due to a complex blend of geographic, atmospheric, and human factors. In this video, we'll dive into the science behind why some places are more disaster-prone than others, revealing unexpected and even controversial insights. What defines a natural disaster-prone area? To understand why disasters hit some places more than others, we first need to define what we mean by natural disaster-prone. When we talk about disaster-prone areas, we're referring to regions where certain types of natural disasters, like hurricanes, earthquakes, floods, or wildfires, are statistically more likely to occur. But it's not just about frequency, the intensity and impact also matter. This often has to do with geographical positioning, climatic patterns, and even socio-economic factors. One important element is how these areas are measured. Disaster risk isn't solely based on past events but is also calculated based on potential future occurrences. Scientists use tools like the World Risk Index, which evaluates a country's exposure and vulnerability to natural hazards. For example, in 2023, Vanuatu topped the World Risk Index, primarily because of its vulnerability to sea level rise and frequent tropical storms. But why Vanuatu and not another island nation? The role of geographical location: the Earth is an intricate system of tectonic plates, atmospheric currents, and bodies of water. The most disaster-prone places in the world are often those that are exposed to multiple natural forces simultaneously. One of the best-known examples is Japan, which sits on the Pacific Ring of Fire, a horseshoe-shaped area known for frequent earthquakes and volcanic eruptions. This area alone accounts for around 75% of the Earth's active and dormant volcanoes and 90% of its earthquakes. In Japan, the tectonic plates beneath the Pacific Ocean are constantly shifting. The country's position between four major tectonic plates, the Pacific, Philippine Sea, Okhotsk, and Amurian plates, makes it particularly vulnerable to seismic activity. In fact, Japan experiences roughly 1,500 earthquakes per year, though many are too small to feel. Now, contrast that with Europe, which experiences far fewer earthquakes because most of the continent is not located near any major plate boundaries. This is a fundamental reason why Europe, compared to places like Indonesia or Chile, is less prone to seismic disasters. Climate and weather patterns. Climate is another significant factor in determining why some places are disaster-prone. Hurricanes, for example, form in warm, moist tropical waters and thrive in areas where ocean temperatures are at least 26 degrees Celsius. This is why regions in the Atlantic and Pacific, like the Gulf Coast of the US and Southeast Asia, frequently see hurricanes or typhoons. Climate change is exacerbating these conditions, making certain places even more vulnerable. Research shows that over the past 50 years, the number of tropical cyclones has increased by about 20%. More importantly, these storms are becoming stronger. Category 4 and 5 hurricanes, which were once rare, are now much more frequent due to the rising ocean temperatures. For instance, Hurricane Katrina in 2005, which devastated New Orleans, was fueled by unusually warm waters in the Gulf of Mexico. This led to one of the costliest natural disasters in US history, with damages totaling around $161 billion. Floods. The intersection of geography and weather. Flooding is another type of disaster that affects some regions more than others, and its causes often lie at the intersection of geography and weather patterns. Take Bangladesh as an example. It's one of the most flood-prone countries in the world, largely because it's located in the delta of the Ganges, Brahmaputra, and Meghna rivers. During the monsoon season, these rivers overflow, and since much of Bangladesh is flat and low-lying, the water has nowhere to go. But it's not just geography. Human intervention also plays a role. The construction of dams and levees upstream has altered the natural flow of these rivers, sometimes making floods worse in downstream areas. It's a controversial point, but many experts believe that the infrastructure meant to protect against floods can sometimes increase the severity of these disasters. Wildfires, nature or nurture? Now let's shift our focus to wildfires. Why do some regions, like California and Australia, seem to burn every summer while others remain relatively untouched. A major factor is vegetation type and the natural climate cycles of these areas. For example, California's Mediterranean climate means hot, dry summers and mild, wet winters. The prolonged dry periods cause vegetation to become highly flammable, creating perfect conditions for wildfires. This, combined with human factors, from accidental ignitions to poor forest management practices, leads to massive fires. In fact, 2020 saw California's largest wildfire season on record, burning over 4.3 million acres of land. Some experts argue that these fires are not just a natural phenomenon but are becoming more frequent and intense due to human activity. Climate change plays a significant role, as hotter temperatures dry out vegetation even further. Moreover, urban expansion into previously wild areas, known as the wildland-urban interface, has increased the risk of fires impacting human lives and infrastructure. Human impact, making disasters worse. While natural forces like earthquakes and storms are beyond our control, human activities can influence the severity and frequency of disasters. This is particularly true when it comes to disasters related to climate, like hurricanes, floods, and wildfires. Urbanization, deforestation, and poor land management practices can turn an otherwise manageable natural event into a full-blown disaster. Let's look at Haiti, for example. In 2010, a 7.0 magnitude earthquake struck near Port-au-Prince, killing over 200,000 people and displacing millions. While earthquakes of this magnitude are destructive anywhere, the high death toll in Haiti was exacerbated by a lack of building codes and poor infrastructure. In comparison, Japan frequently experiences earthquakes of similar magnitudes, yet their casualties are far lower, thanks to stringent building regulations and earthquake-resistant designs. Similarly, in countries like Bangladesh, flood risks are worsened by the rapid deforestation of the hills in the upstream areas of rivers. Without trees to absorb rainfall and hold the soil in place, water runs off quickly, swelling rivers and leading to more intense floods downstream. The role of poverty. It's important to mention the role of poverty in disaster vulnerability. Poorer countries and communities often suffer the most from natural disasters, not because they're in more dangerous locations but because they lack the resources to prepare for or recover from disasters. According to a report from the World Bank, natural disasters push about 26 million people into poverty each year. In regions like sub-Saharan Africa and South Asia, where millions already live on the edge of poverty, even a small disaster can have devastating long-term effects. This is why wealthier nations tend to recover faster, even when they are struck by severe disasters like hurricanes or wildfires. They have the financial resources, better infrastructure, and stronger institutions to mitigate the damage and rebuild afterward. Disaster risk reduction. Can it be prevented? Given that some areas are naturally more prone to disasters, is there anything that can be done to prevent them? While we can't stop natural events like hurricanes, earthquakes, or floods, disaster risk can certainly be reduced. The concept of disaster risk reduction, DRR, aims to minimize the damage caused by natural disasters by identifying risks and taking preventative measures. For example, Japan has invested heavily in earthquake-resistant buildings and early warning systems. In 2011, a 9.0 magnitude earthquake struck off the coast of Japan, triggering a tsunami. While the disaster still caused significant damage, early warnings and well-enforced building codes saved countless lives. Compare this to Haiti, where poor infrastructure made the 2010 earthquake much deadlier, even though the magnitude was smaller. On the other hand, some areas, particularly poorer regions, may lack the resources to implement these measures. This creates a vicious cycle. They are more vulnerable to disasters, and when those disasters strike, they are less able to recover. Controversies and misconceptions. There's also no shortage of controversy surrounding natural disasters. One of the most hotly debated topics is whether human activities like deforestation, urbanization, and even fracking are increasing the frequency and intensity of certain disasters. Fracking, or hydraulic fracturing, is one of these controversial issues. Some studies suggest that fracking can induce small earthquakes by altering the pressure within the Earth's crust. States like Oklahoma, which has seen a significant rise in fracking activities, have also experienced an increase in seismic activity. Between 2010 and 2015, Oklahoma went from averaging about 2 earthquakes per year to over 900 per year, leading many to question the long-term effects of human intervention. Another contentious point is the impact of climate change on natural disasters. While most scientists agree that global warming is intensifying weather-related disasters, some skeptics argue that natural variability plays a more significant role. However, data increasingly supports the idea that climate change is making disasters like hurricanes and wildfires both more frequent and more intense. A global problem with local solutions. In the end, why are some places more prone to disasters than others? The answer lies in a complicated mix of geographic, climatic, and human factors. From tectonic plates and weather patterns to urbanization and poverty, each region faces its own unique set of risks. However, these risks can be mitigated with the right policies, infrastructure, and preparation. The key takeaway here is that while some areas are more prone to disasters due to natural forces, human actions can either exacerbate or alleviate these risks. Whether it's through better land management, stricter building codes, or addressing climate change, we have the power to reduce the devastating impact of natural disasters. So, the next time you hear about a hurricane hitting Florida, an earthquake rattling Japan, or wildfires blazing in California, remember that there's more to the story than just bad luck or geography. These events are part of a larger, interconnected system, one that we as humans play a crucial role in shaping. Thank you for watching, and remember to stay informed, stay prepared, and stay safe.